Hey, I'm Cyclon, and we finally had the big reveal. We finally got what is going to come with the next patch, and I am more than just excited. I know that I say I'm hyped about every leak I've seen so far since I started Legion. Every leak was amazing, but especially the core updates were always super amazing so far. The Conquerors of the Atlas, Echoes of the Atlas, and now this one just looks super amazing, and the tiny leak going with it. I think it's going to be better than Ritual. It looks like just like they took Metamorph and Ritual and combined it, but that is enough saying. I'm just going to quickly watch the trailer, going to give some of my thoughts about some things. If you are not really interested in this, you can skip ahead.
He's dead.
And I will see you after the trailer. So Zana isn't dead herself, Zana just gone. But okay, I guess we will see her later. Instead, we are going now with Keyword into the Atlas. So Cyrus killed the... Cyrus got defeated himself. Someone killed the defeated the Maiden. But yeah. So we are going to get 2 minions and 2 big new bosses. So the first supporter pack apparently was a ruse. It was not that those were the Vanquishers. Maybe they're still the Vanquishers, but not in the context I thought of them. Not how I saw them. We have the Celestial guy and the Tentacle Pestilence guy being mini bosses, and the Jellyfish guy and the Incinerator, this guy, are the big ones. They all have amazing arenas. It's going to look like a lot of arena interaction, and looks very, very interesting, and I'm going to enjoy learning those bosses.
This is a war for our very existence.
It's going very interesting. So yeah, the Atlas is going to be besieged. Going to get new bosses, new stuff, new influences, but not like those we've seen before. And a whole new Atlas. It just looks absolutely amazing and crazy. And look at this. Look at this passive tree. What is this? This is insane. When I saw that, I was shouting. Also, the Maven that I saw, and I thought what were her orbs, were actually the middle points of these passive things, which I find very interesting. It looks like the center thing, if we take a quick look again, looks like the center thing could have been a mastery or might become a mastery at some point, but if you, or they're intentionally doing it, either it's not a mastery yet, or they're not selecting the mastery, as there's not like with the passive tree the mastery interaction. And then we're going to get the ARCHNEMESIS leak, which I think is going to be interesting, going to be tiny, and has some neat interactions.
They are here.
But yeah, that is the trailer. And with that, let's hop right into the patch notes which we got. So there is partially is already covered by with the last video and the balance manifesto, but there were some secrets in here lower where the most of the balance manifesto stuff came that are still very interesting. But first, so we have Siege of the Atlas, bit of lore point, ArchNemesis leak. So basically from what GGG in the interview, what in trailer, everything we know, we're going to have these ArchNemesis statues in the map. These ArchNemesis, when clicked on, we can place an ArchNemesis currency items which is non-tradable, put it in the statue. Actually, if we go down here, we can take a look at that, I think. Yeah, so we take one of these ArchNemesis orbs, put them in, and we then have 4 fights. And the first fight has 1 orb, the second fight has 2 orbs applied, and those orbs can somehow be combined with a crafting thing, which is kind of hinted by the system itself, which we will see And so if you then kill the rare, will drop a new orb. Then you have a third orb that can be applied, and then you have a final force fight. So you will always have 4 fights per map, but you will most likely only get 2 orbs per map, or 2 of these weird currency orbs, reward orbs. And there is a tiny bonus for group play in this case. Group play can be more rewarded because you're not going to have your own. You will, as a map owner, get your 2 drops. Those are locked to you. And the other people in your parties can get 0 to 2 drops themselves. Apparently it's 2. It could be that unintentionally or unknowingly to Chris Wilson, we are able to get more orbs. But by the looks of it, you're going to run a few maps, stack those up, then combine the ones you want to, until you have like the perfect setting for a final run, where you then have a super juiced run. And I think the ones that you don't need, you will run in between. And it's going to be a lot of chaos recipes that you will be able to do with this. And there will be a lot of small currency that you can do with this. But I think it's not going to be scalable into the late game like Ritual Wars with the vessels. But it's definitely going to be an interesting thing that you can do on the side. And it's going to be heavy rare monsters. So if they are quite heavily buffed, you have a headhunter, you can take the heavily buffed. Yeah, that was about the Arch League. I made a tiny note sheet. So now we have new content, and I've kind of summarized it. There are going to be a few new items. The div cards I'm not going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about the uniques. Those will be on a separate video. Or actually maybe going to talk about the uniques here. But I think I would just like to rate before we have a bit more before talking overall. But first we're going to have new currency. So we're going to have Eldritch Orbs. Lesser, greater, grand, and exceptional. Lesser, greater, and exceptional from the 2 big bosses. And the influence type. Those are giving an item prefixes. Not prefixes, implicits. So they have tiers. And to get to the higher tiers, you will need to use an Orb of Conflict, which is dropped by the Maven, which is basically similar to her Maven Orb. And it takes one, not a ray, but reduces the tier and increases the tier of the other. So the ray that you can do, you roll until you have a nice influence, nice Eldritch influence, Ember influence, and then a nice Ico influence. Any Ico influence, use the conflict, help you increase the Eldritch, the Ember influence up to 5 or 6, and then you roll the Eldritch Ico until it's good. But here is something they said is that it re-rolls. So we don't know that, for example, you have that adds fire damage. When you increase the tier of it, it's going to definitely increase the tier, but it's going to take a random mod from the tier level. So instead of maybe fire damage, it could now be a cold damage. I don't know about that, that we will have to see in game. We also got, well, deterministic crafting basically. So those are going to either apply to suffixes or prefixes, the Chaos Orb, an Exalted Orb, and Annulment Orb, but only based on what influence it has. So if it only has Ember influence, it will only apply to the prefix. If it only has Ico influence, it will only apply to the suffix, which basically can be pseudo-deterministic, or it is deterministic in the sense of you can decide if to keep the prefixes or to keep the suffixes. And I don't really know how you can remove. I don't really know if you can remove them somehow, except maybe if they are tier 1 and then you do an Orb of Conflict to have both and then you remove one. Maybe that will be the way to remove, so you can keep switching between adding a prefix and adding a suffix if needed. But there will definitely be a deterministic crafting. We also have a bit of other currencies. We have a Kira currency, which basically works like a bestiary orb for the new sextants, because sextants are getting up, sextants and watchstones. We don't have watchstones anymore, we have voidstones. We don't have up to 16 anymore, we have only 4. and they are dropped by the Pinnacle boss fights, Maven, Uber Elder, and the two new big bosses, the Eater of Worlds and the Searing something guy. And they can be applied with sextants, and the sextants apply to your map, but you can use the compass, which is sold by Kirek for a chaos each, to store those and then sell them on the market. Also, he is now taking over Zana missions, and he is instead not offering them in the map, but in your hideout. You select the map like you would with Zana, and from the hideout enter the map, and there is no quest in the map to do. It's just basically an increased reward pool. For example, this is definitely going to have a ritual in it, this is definitely going to have a harvest in it, and so forth. The next new item we are going to and lastly we have the scouting reports. Those basically are going to reroll Kirek's pool, like he is still doing it like Zana. You buy maps, you open a Kirek mission, and you get a new maps once you enter the map. Or you have now the scouting reports, which are going to reroll its missions and are guaranteeing a specific type. For example, a unique map or a breachstone mission, which is pretty nice. And lastly, we have one more interesting item, which is the oil extractor. So it's going to destroy an item, an anointed ring, amulet, or map, and it's going to take an anointment oil for the anointment of it. So what I think, this is going to be interesting for SSF players, and overall might be usable for trade players. So there are still sometimes talismans which are randomly anointed. Or there are talismans that are randomly anointed. So you can look for anointments that have 1 to 2 golden oils in them, or all golden oils of course, and you can buy those, hopefully cheap, use an oil extractor, hopefully cheap, and just get a golden oil out of it. Now of course this might crash, depending on the rarity of the oil extractor, might crash the market, or might make those items expensive, and if that is expensive, I don't know. And I assume it's going to be a challenge, so it's definitely going to have a price. Then we have Mark on Hit, the Blessing as a skill gem, and the Mortal Conviction as a skill gem. So basically, now as a skill gem, the linked support gem can be reserved for free, but you cannot reserve on your aura anymore. And this one is that the reservation cost gets replaced with a mana cost, and you have a duration while that is active. And then Mark on Hit is like Curse on Hit, well, Hex Touch, but for marks now. We'll come later to further to that. Those were pretty much everything we had of here. Now let's go to the next. Minor. There's some pretty interesting things here. We have multiple blight encounters in a single area. That is definitely awesome. We now just need a proper map, and then we can scale the shit out, scale quite a lot out of blight. It's going to be pretty good. Duelist got some audio, it's whatever. Flask now refill until entering the Azeroth mine encampment. I think they realized that with the Endless Stealth event. Grey Spectros monsters that are recently created are now instantly saved in the Desecrate pool. You don't have to do a zone change for them to be remembered. And it's going to be that they are, if they die and you don't respawn them for a few instances, they're still remembered. That's at least how it reads. It's going to be pretty nice. And Delph monsters glow and continues to increase sound, art, and effect vibrate. So basically some optical and acoustical changes, which are nice. Now, Atlas and map changes. There are some pretty interesting things here. So we have the following maps have been re-added, and the following maps have been removed. I've took the liberty to say the worst removes and the most interesting adds in my opinion. They removed Alleyway, Core, Park, Racecourse, and Tropical Island. So Tropical Island, of course, for Delirium, Park for Legion, Racecourse was a pretty nice open fast map, Core for Blight, and Alleyway because of the Exalted Div card. It was a pretty good map. Hopefully we find a better replacement for Core now that we have every map accessible and every map T16. If the ascendancies are pretty good, light farming is going to be a super good thing week 1. But we got added Beach, Burial Chambers, City Square and Mesa, which are pretty nice maps that have been re-added. And Wall Temple is no longer on the Atlas. It still exists, but it's not. It's now only obtainable from corrupting T16 maps. So your T15 maps can break to T60 maps, and your T60 maps can now break to Wall Temple. But the Wall Temple also got an improvement, which we will come to a bit later. And the synthesized maps now have a new base type. Instead of being like a lava chamber, if I understood it correctly, it's just going to be synthesized map, so that they are not on the Atlas. They are not on this map, but they are better sortable, better searchable, I guess. So some of the map bosses for the Pantheon have been changed, and the crafting recipes have been moved around, which is just so they are available on different maps. If you need to know where you can find a crafting recipe, you can always check your crafting bench and scroll down manually, search for the recipe. Search function does not work for that, and then just enter the name and then hover over it and see where it needs to be found. The favorite map slots are now not 4. Not 3 per region, but a total of 12, I think. And you can multiple favorite the favorite map, and basically you can now fully sustain one map, because you can set your whole Atlas on T16 and then fully favorite one map. It's like out of the 100 maps there are, your favorite map now has a 120% chance to drop instead of any other map. And basically that means super easy sustainable. The Conqueror and the Awakener are now basically the maps, like the Shaper and Elder, and the Fragment fight, of course. And Kirak now can also give you Expedition, Ritual, Heist, and Ambush mechanics as a mission. Then maps, Expedition, Logbooks, Heist Contract, Blueprint, Stealth are now with new modifiers, but no longer able to roll point blank. And the Sextant mod pool has been diluted, and further sextant in a moment. First, the Maven Orb. The Maven Orb is now Orb of Dominance and no longer drops from Maven. We currently do not know where it drops from. The Orbs of Unmaking are no longer dropping from Maven. It doesn't say that it also doesn't drop from the Maven boss fight, so the invitations she offers. I think maybe they still drop there, and maybe the Orb of Dominance also drops there, but I don't know that. It could be that it drops otherwise. And the Orb of Unmaking also now droppable from Chimera in Research. Hook Divination card has been disabled. Harvest Crafts are now also there for Conqueror fragments, so changing a fragment into a different fragment, or changing a T14 map or higher into a random Conqueror map, and Scourge doesn't work anymore. Now we come to the big content things. The Awakening skill gems have been moved from the Conquerors to the Maven and her invitations. The invitations can drop skill gems like the Conquerors did. So stuff like melee fizz, minion damage, added fire, fire penetration and so forth can drop from the invitations. And Maven herself is going to drop the big things such as Awakened Multi-Strike or Awakened Spell Echo, which is definitely interesting and is going to improve the value of Maven a lot. And some of the influence mods from the Conquerors, because it's not the main goal anymore, are moved to the core pool, such as +1 level 2 gems are now on amulets in the core pool. The shield maximum resistance is now on the core pool, and it's also now on boots, gloves, helmet as a suffix, and synthesized shields can now roll max resistances as an implicit. Furthermore, Maven got her uniques improved. The Doppelganger's Guise, the body armor, is now less physical damage taken, so instead of 15 to 25, it's now 30 to 40. And her belts have now +1 max charge. Keep in mind that it also instantly replaces the charge system, but it basically, for example, the Aunt's Anguish gave you a 3% chance or something, or 0.3 for triple damage. So with this, it's now not 0.9 with 3 charges. You now can have 4, so it would be 1.2. It's a slight improvement to all the belts. but builds that have not used the belts before won't really use them afterwards either. And the Legacy of Fury now scorches nearby enemies and has no negative resistances. Maybe it's now a bit more viable. The Atlas base types have been put core, but with lower chance to drop, so they can drop everywhere, every base type now. And now the big Sexton change. On top of Sextons now being applicable to Void Stones, and Sextons now being Sextons being storable with the Sextant compass, Simple and Primed Sextants have been removed. A lot of their stuff have been moved to Awakener Sextants. They are now also convertible to Awakener Sextants. And Chimera drops them, and the Monochrome Divination card is no longer obtainable in League. Previous ones are just giving Awakener Sextants now. And like I mentioned, they can now no longer be traded, but instead you can trade the mod in a compass. So with the compasses now there will be an easier trade for the Sextants modifiers. They are now no longer base cost of the Watchstones. Their base cost is now 1 chaos, and then there is the value of the modifier added on top. It's definitely going to be nice. It doesn't necessarily change anything. I guess because the base cost of the buy-in to do that is reduced, the base cost of it's easier to sell them now. You just need the Sextants, and you need any 1/4 Watchstones based if you want to block them, or if you just want to roll them randomly and whatever good you get. There would definitely be a bigger mod pool. They are more common, so you will need to maybe look what is best to block now if you want to have like so many Delirium ones, because you want to run Delirium Mirror. And now the Vault Temple. The Vault Temple got an additional modifier. It now contains 10 wall vessels. Those are the things in wall side areas that can drop fragments and wall skill gems. But each of these vessels now acts like a strongbox, which spawns 3 packs of monsters as well as a wall side area boss, and has a drop theme inside around the corruption. It is pretty interesting, definitely worth checking out, but I don't know how viable it is. The Blight Ravaged maps are now, instead of 20% of the modifiers are applied to the chest, it's now at 40. So because it was quite harder, it's now also more rewarding than normal Blight maps, on top of already having a higher item level pool and basically more lines, more stuff around. It's now also giving you more value, but it kind of entices you to make it even harder to get even more value out of it. Because of the map changes, some div cards got changed as well. I've also again noted the ones that I found the most interesting. Just need to find my notes to those. There we go. The Dragon's Heart no longer drops in the Pit of Chimera map. The Enlightened no longer drops in the Ashen Wood map, and the Wretched no longer drops in the Forge of the Phoenix, Primordial Block, Tower or Vault Temple maps. The Wretched not dropping in Tower is a bit sad. It barely happened, but still having the chance was quite nice. The others didn't felt so bad, or I at least can't instantly link them to any skill, any item or skill gem. The blighted cards that gave maps are now at specific tiers, which is okay, doesn't really matter. I at least haven't really used them a lot. And now the prophecy changes. We got them quite early known. The Faun is still there, Navali isn't, so you can have even more reason to skip the boss now. The Fated Uniques here got removed. Out of those, there was Screaming, there's a Griffin, which is personally, in my opinion, a bit sad that it got removed. I really like melee leveling with that. Outside of that, it's, I think, okay. Then we have some which got changed, so they are more like their upgraded version. We got the Dancing Dervish, Ironheart, which I think are the 2 biggest here. Then Azuri's Reflection is now a drop from Uber Aziri, making the boss fight more enticing. I think her weapon got moved to the normal Aziri fight instead. Pay console is no longer accessible. Other fated uniques which are not specifically mentioned here are now randomly dropped by map bosses. It's kind of like the awakening bonus in the current where the boss just drops a unique. It's now happening for the fated uniques with endgame map bosses, so I assume red map bosses. That means stuff like the shield that gives increased aura effect and increased aura effect on top of for minions will now be randomly dropped. And same for Azena's chant, which I have not read here, so randomly dropped from bosses might heavily affect the price of her early. However, the div card is still there, which we come to now. The note in the wind now no longer gives you the prophecy, and now directly gives you an Azena's chant, so can be farmed and can be bought for easier getting an Azena's chant, so the price isn't too heavy. Beauty Through Dust directly gives an Aziri's reflection. Akali's prophecy gives a random item, so still as random as before. And Mad of the King gives instantly Calm's Ray, while Wild Power instantly gives the Doom Fletch. Immortal Resolve is nice as it gives a 6-linked influence body armor. It's okay. And betrayal changes, these are interesting and quite simple, so I'm just going to read them and then I'm going to explain them. Betrayal job leaders can now assist as reinforcement on a job if there are a total of 3 ranks worth of syndicate members in that job. This allows you to draw a leader out more easily by having multiple equally ranked members on a job, or a single rank 3 member on a job. So basically it says you need a rank 3 total, so either 3 rank 1, 2 rank 1 rank 2 and 1 rank 1. Maybe because they say here either 3 multiple or 1 single rank 3. I don't know if the 2+1 works, so, or 1 rank 3. So you could have the old strategy where you have, let's say, rank 3 Iceling and rank 3 Worichi in research. Because Iceling appears, Worichi can also appear. Or you have Worichi as a head and then Iceling it's at flat and Tora on rank 1 in research. And because their total rank is 3, Worichi has more likely to appear. It's a pretty nice buff, definitely for those who farm Betrayal. Delve got some XP and biome changes. It's for most people not that important. I actually don't know too much about it. I really just run Delve until I don't want to run it anymore and then go on. Act 2, the monsters got improved health and damage. As well, we got some new monsters added, such as the Brigands, the Wasp, Undead Wall, Scuttlers and Salvagers. The Tormented Maltese explosion is now a bit easier readable. Oh no, wait, sorry, that deals less damage. And which comes here, the Mausoleum map boss, the Tolman, the Exhumer are now more visible when they're going to detonate corpses. Also, here we got more modifiers on blue and yellow. Sorry, I quickly skipped that. Blue mobs, so champion packs, and rare mobs, so rare packs, are now having more mods and improved mods, which you can steal with a headhunter, which is nice. There is a bit of a downside. If you're not a caster, this one is going to be dead mods for you, but if you're a caster, this is pure improvement on all of them. And here we come to the skill changes which we got in the Balance Manifesto. I'm not going to go through everything. If you're interested in me going through them in more detail, please refer to my last video. I'm just going to quickly summarize it here for the last changes. So we have skill gem changes, item changes, mastery changes. If we take a look starting with this, yeah. And this is an item change, sorry. Skill gem changes first. We have significant buffs to Absolution, Arc, Bladefall, Exsanguinate, Fireball, Ice Spear, Reap, Volatile Dead, Ice Trap, Fire Trap, Lightning Trap, Explosive Trap, and Blade Trap, Shockwave and Holy Flame Totem, Shockwave Totem and Holy Flame Totem, and Explosive Arrow. We have an OK buff to Blade Blast, Blazing Salvo, Essence Drain, Forbidden Rite, Spark, Frostbolt, Freezing Pulse, Ethereal Knives, Orb of Storms, and Armageddon Brand. And a small buff to Ball Lightning, Blade Vortex, Eye of Winter, and Winter Orb, in my opinion. Also, marks are now permanent. Warlord marks now grants life and mana leech with a 2% value. Dead Eye Focal Point Ascendancy node makes the mark hop, so if you kill an enemy that has a mark, it hops to the next enemy. which is definitely a nice improvement to have. And Mark Mastery now can give you a 10% chance for a Frenzy Charge if you hit. Now to the nerfs. We got a Toxic Rain, is a bit less damage, which balance out with the item changes, I think. We have Seismic Trap, which doesn't scale as good with AoE anymore. I don't know how heavy that is going to be. We have Fire Burst, which has an increased cooldown, so it's not as good anymore. Detonate That got a heavy nerf by Spectra maximum life being reduced. So it's not as good anymore to just take high level Spectres, which are now more consistent, which was a kind of okay, not really a buff, but more consistency was nice. But they instantly reduced this consistency by saying, yeah, we're going to reduce Spectre life. They're now as good as a Herald of Kitava. So from their old 800 Litomancer with 800 life, they now go down to 360, which is definitely quite a heavy hit. Not happy for those Detonate That players. Next we have Hydrosphere, now triggers less often, it triggers once per second. So you still have the exposure apply and the interactions with cursor hit and whatnot, but you do not have the damage interaction, for example with Eye of Winter and Chain, or with the Ultra Quality Melee Splash, which removes the reduced damage, and Lightning Strike. So those interactions got removed, and the support gems, the flat added damage gems got overall nerfed. Unleash got nerfed by 20%. Trigger gems got the uniques gotten cooldown, and also the gems got nerfed between 33 to 31 less damage. The totems, you don't get +1 totems from Soul Mantle anymore, and has about 20% less damage. Cock and channeling, also cast on crit and channeling support, got 30 to 39% less damage. Traps have 20% less damage on trap support, multiple trap support, and cluster trap support, which hopefully is balanced out by the buffs, of course. And lastly, Mines High Impact and Blast Chain Mine have 20% less damage than before. And Minefield now throws 1 less mine, but it only gives you 46 less throwing speed instead of 60, which is an improvement. I think that is okay that you lost 1 mine for not as much less throwing speed. I think I actually like the Minefield change. And lastly, we have item changes. So the first item change I added up here. Well, Doyani's prototype got nerfed. It was too big of a hit apparently. Enemies can now have a minimum resistance of -100 and not -200 anymore. And the socket recipes, by the way, got a few socket recipes for sockets got moved to the acts in Act 4, which is a nice change. Just wanted to quickly throw it in before I go down to the item changes. So the cast speed got buffed on gloves, amulets, and weapons. The threshold jewels got changed to either be utility based or going to be completely removed. Instead, we got buffs to the skill gems, as I mentioned up here. The bows now have better base damage. Now are going to use two-handed flat damage, and now on top of and percentage damage, and the flat damage on two-handed and one-handed weapon got improved, as well as on other items like gloves. Then elemental damage with bows is now damage with bow skills and can roll higher. And instead they nerfed uniques, so that there is still, hey, use the uniques early on, they are okay, and then use the rares because we want rares to be better than uniques. And the same goes for quivers. The elemental damage with attack skills is now damage with bow skills. Bow attacks fire an additional arrow is now a suffix and is in the core mod pool. Better physical and chaos flat rolls and better accuracy roll, as well as now better attack speed roll. The attack speed roll would also apply to boots, to dexterity shields. And the uniques have new quiver bases, which is okay, but in return Void Fletcher got quite nuked. It has now something like 60% less damage. And lastly, we have March of the Legion, which now does not give you 4 free auras. It is sad, but it was too good. And now you can now have Blessing, which gives you 1 free aura, but it costs mana now, so you need to open mana for builds like the Hierophant that go with, or builds that go with Agnostic or go with Might Over Matter. It's definitely a huge thing, because now you can have an aura in there on top of having Clarity, reserving Clarity 1 or something, and then using an Essence Worm for an aura. You can now have Blessing with the second aura. I definitely like that change for those kind of builds, if it ever going to be alive again. And Mortal Conviction is now also a support gem, which allows you to have no mana reserved. By the sounds of it, it's like you can still reserve mana, you can still use mana, but you cannot reserve it. And it also gives you an aura for completely free. And definitely an interesting thing for a build that is like, okay, I'm not going to reserve my mana, instead I'm going low life, reserving all my life, then having 1 aura, 1 really big aura, reserving for free, and then I have all my mana for some interaction, which I don't know what could be. And last, maybe with the Ivory Tower, maybe that's actually going to be a thing. And lastly, we have the mastery changes on top of the Mark 1. The arrow speed, it got added that arrow speed also gives damage with both. So increased arrow speed or reduced arrow speed, now increases or damage your damage with both too. There is 100 accuracy per green socket on your bow. There is now, I think, 40% improve in Mirage Archer duration, and a 50% improve in blink and mirror arrow cooldown. And there's got some tiny notes added, including a note for phasing. If we look down here, phasing. Added 2 small passive skills on Avatar Hunt Cluster, each providing 4 increased attack speed with bows and 8% chance to gain phasing on kills. So there you can get your phasing if you're an archer again. And the other one gives you attack speed and accuracy rating, which, the Farsight Cluster, each providing 15 increased accuracy with bow. The existing small passive that provided 4 increased attack speed and 8% increased accuracy now provides 12% damage, 3% attack speed, and 12% increased damage over time. So nice little changes overall. I think I've read everything, or I summarized everything in the patch notes. I would really like to know how you like, if you enjoyed this, what you enjoyed about the way I gave this, with a mix of reading and taking notes and then giving you the notes and kind of summarizing part of it while still reading interesting part out. Would really like to know what you think about it. And I want to rephrase this, not just if you enjoyed it, also if you didn't enjoy it. Would you rather like me only giving you a summarized form, or would you like everything to be read out? Please let me know. All that being said, have a great day.